The following material is based on dated information and in light of recent developments may in fact turn out to be bullshit. Ruckus Entertainment would like to apologise for the inaccuracies, misinterpretations and wild timeline estimations contained within this presentation. Hello all, Ruckus here with another episode of Tall Talk, because the day after last week's episode was released, Wargaming posted up a Q&A session with Overlord, one of the game's lead developers. Well, I think that's what he is anyway. And in there was a lot of information, some really interesting stuff about upcoming developments and content we should expect to see soon. So even if you did catch it, there was a lot to process in there, and there was no real rhyme or reason to the way it was structured. It was hard to get a sense of what's going to come before other things. So what I thought I'd do was break it down into groups, what to expect early, what to expect this year, what to expect but with no timeline given, and what not to expect, what has just been flat out refused. Let's kick things off with what's not coming. Let's get that out of the way first. These three questions, whilst the answers given are not definite no's and nevers, all three are questions that have been asked for years and years on PC, and there's been no change. So I would expect the same thing to be the case in Blitz. The first regards vehicles with frontal transmission. Usually these are the German vehicles, and if you are a regular driving them, you will know that shots through your front lower glacis will often result in a engine fire, even though the engine is at the rear. And this is because the transmission is located at the front. And unfortunately, this is what you'll just have to expect. There will be no change to this. The second is the matchmaking system. People requesting a less of a spread, one each way. But again, this will not be happening. There is a hint there that perhaps with improvements to the WoT PC version, things will filter down to Blitz, but as such, the current two-tier spread for most vehicles will remain the same. And the third regards a outrageous request for tier 10 premium vehicles. I don't know why you would request this. It was a terrible idea. And no, it's not planned. We all know how well people with under 100 games under their belt perform when they purchase their tier 8 vehicles and are thrown into a tier 8 battle or even higher, and how fun it is to rely on them if they are top tier. So I can't imagine how bad it would be if they were allowed to buy all their way all the way up to tier 10. That would be terrible. The answer there, not this time, doesn't necessarily mean never, but I personally would never expect Blitz to implement premium tier 10 vehicles. There are reward vehicles for tier 10. I've got an M60 in the garage for my clan's performance in Clan Wars on PC. There was also the VK7201K, the fail low German super heavy tank at tier 10. So these things, perhaps yes, sometime down the track you would see reward tanks at tier 10, but I would never expect premium tier 10s that you could purchase your way up to that high tier. On to patch 1.7, the next patch coming up that we should expect within a couple of weeks. What will come then? Well, there is the new American turreted tank destroyer line. That will likely be 7 new vehicles from tier 4 to tier 10. The first three, the tier 4 to tier 6, the M8A1, the T67 and the Hellcat, are very mobile little tanks with good guns. The T25/2 plays much like a slow medium, and then things slow right down with the T28 prototype, which has the same speed characteristics as your standard T28, but it has that turret. Obviously the armor is weaker, but the turret gives you a lot more flexibility. The T30 is a monster of a tank. It's pretty much just a T34 premium tank with a bigger gun. No armor like the T95, completely different playstyle. And the 110E4 is much the same. Powerful gun, but less armor and a rotating turret. The top tier vehicles in this line you will find don't have turrets that spin around 360 degrees. They only spin towards the rear, say 180, 150 degrees to the rear before you have to turn the whole thing around to reach the other side. So that will be something to watch out for. That'll catch some people out. Onto the premium tanks that are coming in 1.7. The TOG is on its way, yes! And so is the Churchill 3. That's the Lend-Lease version of the Churchill that went over to the Soviets. I predict many, many TOGs in-game in the first few weeks before people realize that they, whilst being amazingly good fun to drive, aren't particularly strong vehicles by themselves. The Churchill is a solid vehicle. I had that on PC. It's got a very rapid firing gun, and if it gets preferential matchmaking, it will be a good fun tank to drive. City maps are being worked on. They are working on a version of map that will be similar to Himmelsdorf, which is one of the big city maps on PC, but I think they have trouble optimizing it for the CPU constraints of these mobile devices. Having city maps takes up quite a lot of processing power, but they are being worked on. And there will be some characteristic changes for some top tier tank destroyers, so possibly some bad news for people who enjoy playing these or are grinding through them at the moment. The tier 9s for sure are getting certain changes that'll be likely to soft stats like turning, movement, aim times perhaps. And it looks like the medium tanks as well will be getting some changes. Whether that's a buff or a nerf, I'm not too sure. Now on to patch 1.8, which is likely still a couple of months away yet. This one is going to be huge. It's bringing in the personal mission system, which is going to be like a completely new goal for those of you who are just tired of grinding towards tier 10 vehicles. These missions will be a more personalized version of the kind of system that's been brought into PC just recently. Every day you will have a select few missions to complete. After a period of time, you will be rewarded with camouflage, achievements, reward tanks, unique vehicles that you can only get by completing these missions. So it's good for the longevity of the game. I think this will be a great patch. On top of all this new content, there is also going to be changes to the tutorial system in-game, with the load screens having advice and tips and that kind of thing. I think that implies, and perhaps new tutorials like the very first one you have to complete if you're a new player with a new account. There's also going to be bug fixes. That bug on Winter Malinovka up near the windmill where you aim at a vehicle over a hill in sniper mode, and even though you're looking straight at it, the camera refuses to auto zoom in. Super annoying, and looks like 1.8 patch will fix that. But what won't be included are new vehicles in this patch. Someone asked whether the British tank destroyer line will come in patch 1.8, but it is not to be. So those of you holding on for a 183mm Doom cannon will have to wait longer. And this is where I'll leave things for this episode, guys. There is still a lot of info from the Q&A I'm yet to touch on, but I haven't been expedient enough with my production. And with patch 1.7 due to drop any day now, I've decided, in the interests of keeping some of the material in here relevant, to split this episode into two. We will pick up where we left off next week. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in patch 1.7. Peace!